With the stories shaping Dominica and the wider world, I am Soana Benjamin with EmoNews for the 9th of April 2026. In tonight's news package, electricity rates closer to seeing decrease as IRC grants conditional approval for revised electricity tariffs to Domlec. Dominica hosts historic CTEL meeting. Minister of Security praises efforts of police in gun-related crimes. FAO to host high-level dialogue on Middle East conflict and food security impacts. And many teachers struggle as salaries collapse amid ongoing crisis. Stay tuned for the details of these stories. To begin, the Independent Regulatory Commission, IRC, has granted conditional approval to Dominica Electricity Services Limited, DOMLEC, for the application of revised electricity tariff rates in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Dominicans are expected to see a decrease in electricity prices once the new rates are approved. Let's hear from Justin Case, the Executive Director at the IRC.
I am pleased to say that the bills will be going down. And the single greatest intervention that influences this downward or lower bill is the geothermal project. Okay? As a result of the geothermal project, 80% of Domlec's fuel consumption will be displaced. And that's just fuel. You have things like lube oil consumption, you have other related aspects of thermal generation which will be significantly reduced.
The IRC stated that the conditional approval allows the process to remain compliant with statutory timelines while ensuring regulatory certainty and supporting the financial stability of the national electricity provider.
This decision has been made pursuant to the authority granted under the Act number 10 of 2006, which establishes the legal framework for the regulation of electricity services in Dominica. In particular, the Act empowers the Independent Regulatory Commission to review and approve tariff adjustments, ensuring that rates are fair and reasonable to consumers while allowing the utility to recover efficient costs and maintain financial sustainability. The legislation also provides for approvals to be granted subject to conditions where necessary to safeguard the public's interests, promote accountability, and ensure compliance with established regulatory principles. The conditional approval reflects careful consideration of these statutory obligations, balancing affordability for consumers with the need to support critical investment in infrastructure, service reliability, and the transition to more sustainable energy sources.
The Commission emphasized that this is not a final approval. It is an interim measure that enables continued stakeholder engagement and public consultation before a final decision is made. When asked why conditional approval was granted before public consultation, Case had this to say.
In the interest of time and the fact that the geothermal will come online before consultation starts and before it finishes actually, we had to ensure that Domlec was in a position to fulfill the requirements by the PPA. So what do we mean by a PPA? Between DOMLEC and the geothermal, there's what we call a power purchase agreement. And when commercial operation date is established, which it will be by the end of this month, DOMLEC cannot be operating on its own rates. That would mean that they may not be able to sufficiently pay the geothermal. So we couldn't allow a situation like that to occur.
In the coming weeks, the IRC will host consultations to gather feedback from consumers, businesses, and other stakeholders on the proposed tariff changes. Here's a public relations consultant at the IRC, Hermina Augustine.
Our biggest meeting will be Friday, this Friday, the 10th, at the PSU conference room on Valley Road. This is where we're going to have the public meeting for Roseau. This week, on the 14th, both of these will be at Prevost Cinemall. So we will have one for the corporates, small and business focus group. So all our businesses around Dominica, we invite you to come to that meeting at the Prevost Cinemall, because with this group, you will have a lot of questions, probably more specific around businesses and how these rates will impact your business. And secondly, on the 17th, we have a second meeting, similar structure, but it will be for associations, statutory boards, and all of this, civil society. All of these are invited to that meeting on the 17th.
In more news, the Dominica Business Forum Incorporated has announced a private sector discussion focused on electoral updates and engagement, featuring Chairman of the Electoral Commission, Duncan Stowe. The meeting is scheduled for 4:30 p.m. on Friday, April 10th at the Fortier Hotel, where Mr. Stowe is expected to provide updates on the voter confirmation and registration process following recent electoral legislation reforms. The Chief Elections Officer has also been invited to attend the session, which aims to foster dialogue between the private sector and electoral authorities. The Dominica Business Forum noted its long-standing involvement in electoral awareness since 2019, including engagement with Sir Dennis Byron during consultations and collaboration with the government on reviewing draft electoral legislation. The organization also raised concerns about the need for a non-partisan approach to voter confirmation and registration, warning that failure to ensure neutrality could impact the integrity of the electoral system. Additional speakers expected at the event include hotelier Gregor Nassif, physical planner Annie Edwards, and former United Nations Ambassador Crispin Gregoire. Organizers say the discussion is intended to spark more meaningful engagement within the private sector on national issues and encourage broader public discourse moving forward. And in more news related to the elections process, the Electoral Office of Dominica has introduced centralized voter confirmation services at the Windsor Park Sports Stadium in Roseau as part of efforts to improve accessibility and convenience for electors. The initiative is designed to assist individuals who are registered in constituencies outside of Roseau but who now live or work in the capital, allowing them to complete the confirmation process without traveling to their home districts. Under the program, a different constituency will be facilitated each week, with the rotation set to begin in the second week of April 2026. A detailed monthly schedule will be published through the Electoral Office's official platforms and other media channels. Let's hear from Anthea Joseph, Chief Elections Officer.
The Electoral Office advises the public that special arrangements have been made to assist persons living in Roseau who are originally from other constituencies or from the far ends of Dominica to complete their confirmation process. Beginning next week, Tuesday, the Electoral Office will be operating at the stadium in Roseau every Tuesday. Each Tuesday will be dedicated to different constituencies, and these schedules will be announced in advance. This initiative is designed to assist persons who are unable to travel back to the communities during the regular hours of the confirmation center, which is from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and on a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So on the day designated to your constituency, all you need to do to complete your confirmation process is to walk with your ID, such as your Dominica passport or your social security card or your driver's license that is valid, along with a witness. And for persons who do not have an ID, we have now made it easy by allowing them to present a passport size photo with a note, this is a true likeness, and your name, along with the first schedule notarized by a Justice of Peace, a Notary Public, or a Commission of Oaths, along with your birth certificate. Now, this is by no means transferring the confirmation center to Roseau. That's not what we are saying. We are trying to accommodate persons who live in Roseau and have not been able to visit their constituencies to get confirmed at their confirmation centers. So in other words, we are bringing the confirmation center to you in Roseau.
Members of the public are encouraged to take advantage of the initiative and complete their voter confirmation in a timely manner. In more news, the 47th meeting of the Permanent Consultative Committee, PCC2, of the Inter-American Telecommunications Commission, CTEL, was held in Dominica on Tuesday. In her opening remarks, Honorable Shakira Lockhart-Hippolyte shared Dominica's goals that aligned with that of the organization.
Dominica shares in these goals disaster preparedness and resilience, in keeping with the Prime Minister's vision of being the first climate-resilient country in the world, ensuring in our disaster responsiveness that we embrace technologies as old as amateur radio and as new as LEOs, recognizing that all technologies are important to build a scalable and responsive disaster communication strategy.
In keeping with the theme of the meeting, championing SID's small island developing states in global communications, the minister also spoke of other goals, which she says are more specific to Dominica as a small island state.
Creating the enabling environment to encourage growth, development, and digital transformation by participating in the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. Security and protection of citizenry, ensuring that we can detect and respond to threats to all forms, including weather-related. Ensuring that the necessary legal framework is enacted to protect the citizens in the digital space, and that international cooperation and coordination is readily available, allowing us to engage in information sharing and security enhancement practices with our partner nations. That is why we're actively exploring the implementation of cybersecurity incidents response team.
Meanwhile, the regional telecommunications regulatory body, the Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority, ECTEL, was represented by some member states, as well as the chairman of the board of directors, Gregory Shillingford, who gave remarks.
Our responsibility at ECTEL is to provide harmonized services, including spectrum management and licensing, to the respective NTRCs, the service providers, and other users in our nations. We have come a long way since our inception in 2000, but much remains to be undertaken, as outlined in our recently approved strategic plan, which runs from 2026 to 2031.
It was a historic event, as this was the first time such a meeting was being held here. CTEL is an entity of the Organization of American States, OAS, that serves as the leading advisory body for telecommunications, ICT policy, coordinating regional development and connectivity in the Americas. Finally, in local news, Dominica's Minister for National Security, Honorable Rayburn Blackmore, addressed the opening ceremony of the Interinstitutional Roundtable Meeting on the Caribbean Firearm Roadmap. The minister described what he considers one of the greatest threats to modern civilization.
One of the greatest threats to our civility and Caribbean civilization, the illicit trafficking of firearms and the other predicate offenses that are detrimental to our existence as a civilized people. The Caribbean Firearms Roadmap has been around for a while, and it presents to us in Dominica and other member states not only a comprehensive template and framework, but a very robust template that member states can use actually to improve the capacities in every aspect of it in terms of human resource component and our technical competence going forward.
The minister also took the opportunity to highlight Dominica's efforts in combating these persistent threats and commended those involved in the ongoing fight.
From 2023 to the present, 3,929 rounds of ammunition were recovered by our law enforcement agencies. For the same time as we just stipulated, 161 firearms were recovered. And for the same period, 121 people were arrested. Permit me, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, to take time out here this morning to acknowledge the commitment, the bravery, and excellence of the law enforcement officials. And we have with us this morning in our mix the finest were representing the various law enforcement agencies. And I want to specifically refer to the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force and the Customs and Excise Division of Dominica.
That's all for local news. We'll be right back with regional news. And in regional news, members of the Guyana Defense Force were honored on Wednesday following their return from hurricane-affected Jamaica, where they successfully completed 200 roof rehabilitation projects for impacted families. The contingent, drawn from the 4th Engineer Battalion and consisting of 1 officer and 40 ranks, played a key role in supporting recovery efforts on the island. Commander-in-Chief and President of Guyana, Irfan Ali, commended the team for their professionalism, discipline, and dedication throughout the mission. The initiative highlights Guyana's continued commitment to regional solidarity and humanitarian support during times of crisis across the Caribbean. And finally, in regional news, the government of Grenada has extended heartfelt condolences to the government and people of Suriname following the passing of former President Chandrika Persad Santokhi. In a statement, officials describe Santokhi as a dedicated public servant and principled regional leader who believes strongly in cooperation and collective Caribbean action. During his tenure as chairman of the Caribbean Community from July to December 2022, Santokhi was credited with providing steady leadership during a period of global uncertainty, while championing regional unity and resilience. He was also recognized for advocating collaborative approaches to key regional challenges, including climate change, food security, sustainable development, and economic recovery. Grenada noted that Santokhi's leadership helped strengthen dialogue among CARICOM member states and reinforced the importance of regional integration. Sympathies were extended to his family, friends, and colleagues, as well as to the people of Suriname and the wider Caribbean as they mourn his loss. Officials said his legacy of service, integrity, and commitment to Caribbean unity will continue to inspire future generations. And we'll be right back with international news.
Blast Gaming presents its biggest jackpot ever. Blast Mystery Progressive. I'm so excited. I can't hide it. The new Blast jackpot rising. And I like it. It going up and up and up and up and up. Blast up and up and up and up and up and up.
Play selected games to win in the Blast Mystery Progressive. Pick until you match 3 gems and win one of the 5 cash jackpots. Or you can blast up with the Mystery Progressive jackpot.
It's going up and up and up and up and up. Blast up and up and up. Blast Gaming.
And internationally, regional leaders and policymakers from Latin America and the Caribbean are set to participate in a high-level dialogue examining the implications of the Middle East conflict on agri-food systems. The virtual event, hosted by the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, is scheduled for April 10th and will be streamed live on YouTube. Discussions will focus on how disruptions in the Persian Gulf, particularly through the Strait of Hormuz, are impacting global trade, increasing energy and agricultural input costs, and placing pressure on food prices and food security across the region. Officials note that while Latin America and the Caribbean remain major global food suppliers, the region is also vulnerable due to its reliance on imported inputs and exposure to international market volatility. Key speakers will include Uruguay's Foreign Affairs Minister Mario Lubetkin, Guatemala's Agriculture Minister Maria Fernanda Rivera, and Wendell Samuel, along with FAO Chief Economist Maximo Torrero Colin. The dialogue forms part of the FAO's broader effort to promote informed, action-oriented discussions aimed at strengthening regional resilience and safeguarding food systems amid global uncertainties. And many teachers are facing severe hardship as declining and irregular salaries continue to push many to the brink. Educators across the country have been forced to take on multiple jobs to survive, with some working long hours in additional roles, such as private tutoring and other sectors, to support their families. The crisis stems from years of conflict and economic instability, which have significantly reduced the value of wages and disrupted regular salary payments. In many cases, teachers have gone unpaid or received delayed compensation, further worsening their financial situation. Reports indicate that the sharp depreciation of the Yemeni currency has drastically reduced purchasing power, leaving many families struggling to afford basic necessities such as food, healthcare, and housing. As a result, teachers have been forced to adopt difficult coping strategies, including skipping meals, cutting essential expenses, and even withdrawing children from school to support household income. The situation has sparked growing frustration and protests among educators who are calling for improved wages and consistent payments. Observers warn that the ongoing challenges facing teachers could have long-term impacts on the country's education system as financial strain continues to affect both educators' well-being and their ability to effectively support students. And finally, in international news, the fertility rate in the United States has dropped to its lowest level on record, according to new data released by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Provisional figures show that approximately 3.6 million babies were born in 2025, translating to about 53 births per 1,000 women of reproductive age. This represents a 1% decline from 2024 and nearly a 20% decrease compared to 2 decades ago. Experts say the decline reflects shifting social trends, including women choosing to have children later in life. While birth rates have increased slightly among women aged 30 and older, they have dropped more sharply among younger women. Researchers also point to broader factors influencing family planning decisions, including economic pressures, changing relationship patterns, and concerns about global issues such as climate change and healthcare. According to experts, many women are delaying childbirth due to financial considerations or waiting to find the right partner, rather than choosing not to have children altogether. Economists warn that continued declines in fertility could have long-term effects on economic growth, particularly by slowing workforce expansion. However, they note that such impacts are more likely to be felt over time rather than immediately. The findings highlight a significant demographic shift, with experts urging policymakers to better understand the underlying causes before implementing measures to address the trend. And that's all for tonight's news package. We'll be right back with sports.
Attention! The Alwyn Bowley Foundation, Max Services, and E.O. Libla family invites you to an evening of poetry, jazz, cocktail with a touch of bouillon on May 2nd at Jungle Bay Resort from 6 p.m. Performances by selected secondary schools, strict cast, and experienced poets. Pani Harmony, King Bob, Lady Octave, Shalina, Andre and Sax, along with Bouillon Emperor. Tickets are available at Jay's Bookstore and Jungle Bay Resort. Tickets $150. Don't forget the dates. May 2nd, jazz, poetry, cocktail with a touch of bouillon. May 2nd, be there.
And in sports, the Portsmouth Football Academy, in collaboration with Bombers Football Club and Sport Aid Dominica, hosted its inaugural Easter Grassroots Youth Football Festival today, Thursday, April 9th, at the Benjamin's Park in Portsmouth. The one-day event took place from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and featured under 11 and under 13 divisions, showcasing young talent from the Portsmouth Football Academy, from the National Football Academy, Newtown Juvenile Football Academy, and visiting team Club Sport Guadeloupe. Organizers said the festival highlights skill development, teamwork, and sportsmanship, while providing a platform for emerging footballers to gain valuable experience. The initiative is being supported by the Honorable Finella Wenham Shepherd, Parliamentary Representative for the area, along with partners including the Dominica Football Association, DASPA, and Twapito Water. Beyond competition, the event formed part of a broader push to develop sports tourism in Dominica, particularly in Portsmouth, by attracting regional participation and promoting the island as a hub for youth football. Organizers say they intend to make the festival an annual event, with plans to expand participation to include more local, regional, and international teams. And finally, in regional sports, a fierce regional rivalry is set to reignite as the Jamaica Scorpions take on the Barbados Pride in the opening round of the 2026 West Indies Championship. The series, scheduled to run from April 12 to early May in Jamaica, will see both teams battling for early dominance in the tournament. Barbados Pride entered the contest with strong momentum despite narrowly missing out on the 2025 title. The Barbadians have also dominated recent encounters with Jamaica, remaining unbeaten over the past decade, including a commanding win in their last meeting. Captain Craig Baffrett said his team remains focused and will not underestimate their opponents, noting the importance of discipline and teamwork heading into the series. On the other hand, Jamaica Scorpions, led by John Campbell, are eager to turn the tide at home. Campbell expressed confidence in his squad's preparation and believes they are ready to challenge the visitors. The Scorpions will be looking to address past struggles, particularly against spin bowling, as they aim to improve their performance this season. The opening match is set for April 12th to the 15th at Chedwin Park, with 2 additional rounds to follow at Sabina Park, promising an exciting contest between 2 of the region's cricketing powerhouses. And that's it for sports news. We'll be right back with the weather report. And I am Soana Benjamin from EmoNews, wishing you a good evening.